Thank you for listening to the BJJ Brick Podcast. We'll be bringing you Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and good times. We hope to flatten your Jiu-Jitsu learning curve, help you get the most out of your grappling ability, and meet your goals both on and off the mat.
Welcome back, my friends, to the BJJ Brick Podcast, episode 35. This is Byron, and I'm here with Gary. What's up, Gary?
Hey, doing great. How's everybody doing today?
I hope they're all doing good. We've got, I think, a really good resource for people in the jiu-jitsu community today, and I think it's going to help some people. And if maybe it won't help you today, but it might help you tomorrow. Basically, I'm talking about this episode. We've interviewed many people, and they're talking about overcoming injuries that they've had.
That's the big thing is, a resource to help each other out when somebody's hurt. What did this person do? Maybe I can take something from that person and, get myself rehab quicker so I can get back on the mats.
Yep, and you know what to expect. Gary, I'm going to, I've been training, I think, about 12 years now. I've never had a serious injury where I had to have surgery. So, I'm fortunate, but I don't think that's a rare thing. I think, listen to all these stories that we've talked to people. It's not maybe a little bit down, but you realize that some of these injuries are pretty serious.
Oh yeah,
but they're not. These are some extreme cases that we have, I think.
Yeah, I'm the same boat. I've been training 12 years, and I haven't had surgery. And I can think of probably most of my training partners haven't had surgeries for injuries. I mean, there's still a lot who have had surgeries, but it's just like any other sport. If I was playing basketball, I'd probably break my ankle at some point.
Yeah.
I've had friends who play softball break their ankle. It's going to happen. It's we could just sit around in a chair and watch TV all day, and we might hurt our back, just because of no exercise, or hurt our heart.
Yeah,
but,
that's right.
I guess that's no matter if anything you're going to do active, you've got a chance to get hurt. But
and bumps and bruises are common.
Yeah. And if we train safe, train smart, we're probably not going to end up in a hospital. And we don't want to end up in a hospital. We don't want to end up hurt, but the resources are available for us if something does happen.
Yeah. So this episode is really geared at, maybe you did get hurt and you've researched this and you found this episode. How am I going to get over my ACL surgery, or how am I going to do after this, my neck surgery or something like that. And then, so you get to hear some stories from people that went through what you might just be going through. Same thing. Maybe you have a teammate that's going to be out for a little while with something on their shoulder, or, some other injury that we might be able to help you out with. So you know what your teammate's going through and you know how to help them. And you know how long they should be away from the mat, and you can give them a call after if they don't show up. Get them back on.
And another great part is these are just everyday people. We're not talking to the most famous jiu-jitsu and MMA fighters in the world. We actually posted on Facebook, hey, if anybody's had a injury in jiu-jitsu, give us a call, give us an email. And so these are, you and me, everyday people, our listeners of the show. And, we appreciate everybody who took the time out to call in and talk to us about it.
Yep, they really stepped up big, and they made this show what it is. I think it's going to be a valuable resource, and this is a two-part, show. Next week we're going to have basically more stories, different stories, obviously, but part two to this. So we had such a huge response, and we had so many great opportunities and stories that people wanted to share that we didn't want to lose any of these. So big thanks to everybody who shared. Yes,
definitely. Thank you.
So, Gary, good news.
What's the good news?
Our sponsor, FujiSports.com, is giving away one of their new rash guards.
And I tell you, I know you've probably looked on the page and seen the Fuji rash guards, but the Robo rash guard, basically I got it in the mail the other day, and I'm loving it. It's an incredible rash guard. I love it. Yeah, Gary,
we've done, so to enter this contest for the giveaway, go to Facebook and like either the show or like the picture of the rash guards, or share it, or however you do that. That'll enter you into the drawing. If you don't have Facebook, you could do the same on Twitter, or just go to the website and put a comment in the notes, and that'll enter you in automatically. But so far, it seems like the Robo rash guard is a little bit more. well received by the audience. They seem to everybody wants that Robo rash guard, Gary.
I tell you, I really like it. It's it looks like a coat of armor on top of you, with abs and. I don't know. I feel like I'm a better grappler wearing it. I don't know
a little
if
bit
that
stronger.
Translates, but that's what I feel like.
Yeah. Well, and so that's not the only option for what they could win. They could also win the Moco, which is
also an awesome rash guard.
It's a tiger-themed rash guard, and it's very artistic. And so I'm just going to remind everybody who has already said that they want the Robo. You don't decide until you've won, and then I'll ask you what you want. But tigers always go for the neck, so that's just a little reminder, guys. So I've been supporting the Tiger rash guard, and I've got a lot of compliments on it already, and I appreciate those. And I've been going for some necks.
Kind of glad I didn't get to roll with you this morning. I may have been choked out by the guy in the Moku rash guard, the Tiger rash guard. So I kind of got lucky.
Yep, you roboted away from me, but
I dodged you.
And I would expect anybody who's going to wear the robot to be able to do the robot dance as good as Gary can or better. So consider
most people haven't seen me dance, and there's a reason for that.
Consider the Moco. It's a beautiful rash guard. It's got a really cool tiger design, and it I don't know for sure, but I think my chokes have gone up 10%, Gary.
Hey, if you can move your chokes 10%, you can't go wrong.
It's hard to actually quantify that with statistics, but I'm pretty sure it's above 9.
Well, he has been going to the kids class lately, so I can see it might have went up a little bit.
Yeah, I guess maybe the tigers are big on picking the right prey. They don't want to pick the most.
That is true.
Athletic, all the big
they
cats.
Look for the injured, the small, the weak. But no, in all seriousness, these two rash guards are great. Like Byron said, the Moku, the Tiger rash guard is the artistic rash guard, as we like to call it, and the Robo is green. It's basically like a robot with the abs and the muscles and the pecs. So each one, both are very unique, and both are very great rash guards.
Yep, you could wear them. It's good for the summer, no gi, and if you want to wear a rash guard underneath your gi, it works fine for that too as well. So check them out, guys, and you could win one.
Yeah, definitely. Check them out. Share, like our page, share, comment. That'll get you in the drawing to win the rash guard from Fuji Sports.
Gary, I've got a quote of the week for you.
Let's hear the quote.
There's no elevator to success. You have to take the stairs. So pretty simple one there. We didn't want to have a real long one today because we've got such a great show. We didn't want anything to stand in the way, but you've got to take the stairs to success.
Oh yeah,
simple.
It's
you got to work hard.
There's no shortcut. What that quote makes me think about though is everybody who goes to the gym to work out, and I see them driving around the parking lot looking for that front space. That's kind of what that reminds me of.
Yeah.
I go to the gym. I try to park at the back so I don't have to worry, about looking for a parking space. And I treat the walk-in as my warm-up, as part of my warm-up there.
And
sort of
cool
get
down.
the blood flowing. So I'm there to work out, not to find the closest parking space.
And quite literally, if you work in a tall building or even a couple of flights of stairs, it's a common way to start the day is to take the stairs.
I used to work in a building, and I worked on the 7th floor. And I guarantee you I was the only one out of about 150 people on the 7th floor that took the stairs up and down every day. I would never use the elevator. I just took the stairs.
That's because one time Gary was attacked in the elevator by a robot, or maybe a guy wearing a robot rash guard, and he's got nothing to do with it anymore.
And I still have that phobia.
But in all seriousness, if you want success, you've got to take the stairs. You've got to work hard for it. Even if you're handed some pretty big advantages in life, you can't sit on those and expect a long-term success. You've got to take the stairs, guys.
That is true.
All right, article of the week. That music is what that's cueing in.
And we've got an article from Stephen Whittier. We've talked to him before, so definitely check out his podcast, his website, 40plusbjjlive.com. But the article is entitled Separation Anxiety, How to Instantly Improve Your Guard Game, and it came out on May 28th.
And Stephen was on the episode 29. So is this like about being nervous if people are going to leave you, or how's this going to improve my guard game?
Not about nervous, not about competition anxiety, or somebody leaving you. It's basically how to instantly improve your guard game. The title got me a little bit, right off the bat when I saw the first part, separation anxiety. But the basic premise is you've got to be connected with your opponent. You've got to, if your opponent separates from you, there's a good chance he's going to pass your guard.
Yeah, and then he mentions those 5 steps in the middle of the article. We'll put a link to the article in the notes, guys, so you can check it out. Keep your knees between you and your opponent, or maybe even your legs between you and your opponent, and maybe your knees to your chest, depending on which kind of guard you're working on. Your grips are huge. You have to fight for your grips and also deny those key grips on the opponent. So,
and then, that's a big key right there. And then, step 3, you got down there foot position. And the big thing is where your feet go, there's pressure. If I've got my foot in one of your hips, I can sweep, create pressure that way. So that's a big key right there.
Yeah, and another tip he gives is your angles. In order to get something to happen from your guard, you've got to create an angle pretty much every time. So, in using those feet, to put the pressure and to help you move your own body, create those angles so where you can start your attack or your sweep or whatever you're doing.
Yeah, and that's huge, like you said, to start your attack. Number 5 he puts down is offensive pressures. And I think that's the one that helps me out. I've got to look to sweep, submit, stand. What happens, if I'm just sitting there trying to keep you from passing my guard, not threatening you at all, even if I've got, the good grips, the good angles, but I'm not trying to do anything proactive to get me out of that position, I'm going to get passed sooner or later. So I've got to threaten with sweeps. I've got to threaten with submissions, try to stand up if I can, anything of that sort to help me from keep getting passed.
Yep. It was a great article by our friend Stephen Whittier. It's on his website, 40, the number 40, and then plus, not the symbol, but the word, 40plusbjjlive.com. And I'll put a link to that. And if you enjoy the article, definitely check out his episode with us. The episode's great for any grappler, but he really focuses on helping the older grapplers have success and longevity on the mats. So it's a great interview that we had with Stephen. So happy to have him on.
I can tell you, me being a little bit older grappler, I've used his advice. I've been checking his articles and websites and videos out for a long time. So great stuff there by Stephen Whittier. So check it out.
All right. Today we have a lot of little clips, I guess is one way to say that, of people from the jiu-jitsu community sharing their stories and opening up their lives to us, and that way they could maybe help you out or maybe help out one of your teammates. So just kind of sit along for these stories that we're going to have, and if one of these might affect you, or maybe you've gone through the same thing, or you're going through the same thing now, it'll help you out. We're just going to roll these from one to the other, and not come back in between. We'll come back at the end, obviously, but we're going to start off talking to Devin about a time he hurt his neck. He thought it was a shoulder injury, and he had a pretty gnarly neck injury. And we'll talk with Michael a little bit about his torn shoulder he suffered. After we talk to Michael, we'll move on to Mike. He's going to share with us a story of when he got ringworm, and it wasn't your typical case of ringworm that he got hit with. After Mike move on to Jim, he's going to share a story about his back injury. He hurt his back about 25 years ago, or 25 years earlier to actually realizing it, and then when it came back, it really hit him pretty hard. Then we're going to move on to the knee. Ariel talks about her knee surgery she had, and so does Dusty Grant. So that'll wrap up this first of the series of our injury stories from the listeners. Hey guys, we have Devin on the line with us today. He's going to share a story about his neck injury that he had. How are you doing today, Devin?
I'm doing great, guys. Been a good morning so far. Doing great.
We really appreciate you taking a little bit of time to talk to us today. So thank you.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. I'm glad I can share my story. I hope it helps somebody.
I'm sure it will. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you train, and how long you've been training and things like that?
Yeah, I'm a purple belt under Dustin Dennis, but I train with variety of people here in I'm from Kansas City, Missouri. I train in Kansas City, Missouri. My gym's here. I train a lot with Jason Bircher, KCBJJ. I cross-train with him quite a bit. Travis Conley, Ethan Day. Those are kind of my main guys, my main instructors. I'm under Dustin Dennis, and I try to cross-train as much as I can. So, but they're from Kansas City.
Cool. Yeah, we both know Jason very well, and we've definitely had some tough roles with him, and ended up in a lot of guillotines.
Yeah, that's a Jason Bircher signature right there. His guillotine's pretty nasty.
Yep, definitely. Okay, Devin, tell us a little bit about your injury, like what happened, and just go from there.
Okay, I'll start at the beginning where I believe I first had hurt my neck. I believe my junior year in high school. I was cutting weight. I was pretty depleted, and I was wrestling off of varsity. It was a pretty big weight cut for me. I was cutting throughout the season, so finally got down to 215, and I wrestled off, and I got picked up and launched off a single leg, and just I didn't have the energy to defend, and I landed on my shoulder and my neck. But at the time, and most of the time, I just thought it was my shoulder that was hurting. I had no clue it had anything to do with my neck. I believe at that time I had bulged a disc. No MRI to prove anything, but in hindsight, I believe that's where the neck injury happened. I rested, got healthy. I was young. I came back pretty quick. 3 years later, I started training jiu-jitsu right after that. 3 years later, I'm a blue belt. Just got my blue belt in 2009, and I take a trip to South Florida to train with some pretty big names. I started at. I got smoked by Luigi Floravanti down there, one of their guys, and this is with Dustin, my instructor. Dustin, he's taking me everywhere. I went and trained at Wagner Rocha, with Cyborg, Roberto Abreu, Pablo Popovich, those guys, and as everybody knows in BJJ, guys are monsters, and it was not a good time. I got beat up by everybody down there. They're all, and it was all healthy. It was good. It was a great learning experience, but I was definitely dealing with some pretty good shoulder pain at the time, and I had no clue that had anything to do with my neck. So I continued to train. I continued to push through. Clean's, if anybody knows Clean is my instructor's nickname. If anybody knows him or heard anything about him, he's very, very intense individual, and he's a little on the crazy side. And I'm not a guy that I wanted to disappoint. I wanted to show that I was tough. I show him that I could push through this kind of stuff. And I was young, 21, and I thought it was just something that'll go away. So continued to push through until my last day, and on the very last day, after training, and we were training hard at Marcel Fierre's, I believe, I couldn't lift my right arm anymore, and it was a very intense pain going down my shoulder into my right arm, and still at the time, I didn't know it had anything to do with my neck. So the plane ride home was, I got on the plane immediately after the training session. I had to sit against the wall, shoving my shoulder into the wall, because that's the only thing that would take the pain away from my shoulder.
Oh man!
Yeah, it was pretty intense. As the flight attendants were asking if there was doctors on the flight, because it takes a lot. I like to think that it takes a lot to make me cry. And I'll tell you, I was in pretty big tears on the plane. It was, like I said, I thought it was my shoulder, because that's where the pain was deriving from, where the nerve was pinched. But at the same time, I didn't know what nerve pain felt like, but it was very intense. So this is where it gets kind of crazy. I come back home. I just kind of rest for a week. I even had to take a couple days off work, but I get back to training because, again, I don't know it has anything to do with my neck at the point. Even the next weekend, I had guys drawing triangles on my neck because I thought it was my shoulder. I just didn't use my right arm. I just let everybody. Man. Yeah, it was a bad situation. And the next 6 months, I trained and tried to prepare for the Worlds in 2009 until got pretty serious. I lost all the muscle from atrophy, from nerve damage that I had no clue that was happening.
Okay.
In my right pec.
Oh boy.
My right tricep, my right forearm, and I was starting to get to the point where I couldn't feel my index finger on my right hand, and that's when I started. I was like, this is more than what I think it is. And I have guys in the gym that's gone through this but it wasn't neck. They said it was a stinger. They said it was,
Yeah.
and they kept referring to that word, a stinger, and I was like, okay, it'll go away. It never went away. So after, like, I would take my shirt off, and it would look like I was two different people. My left side, I had a pec, I had a tricep, I had, a forearm. On my right side, I looked like I had, like, I guess for a lack of a better term, I had like a boob because my muscle was completely gone. It kind of just sunk down. My tricep, I couldn't flex my tricep. It was not there. It was non-existent. My forearm, it was completely, like, there was no muscle to my forearm, and I couldn't feel my finger. So I go to get an MRI in June of 2009. So this is I hurt my neck in January 2009. 6 months later, in June 2009, I finally go get an MRI. My mom talks me into it, and we realize that I have a complete nasty herniation at C5, C6 level. It's compressing my nerve totally, and this is what derived the whole nerve problem, why my shoulder hurt this whole time. So actually it had nothing to do with my shoulder. It had been my neck that had been hurt the whole time. My spine was just out of whack. C5, C6 just completely blown up.
You believe that happened when you were in your junior year in high school?
I believe I had started to bulge in the disc my junior year because I would have like little symptoms every now and then. I would something in my neck, and I would have a little nerve pain, but I just never knew what that was. And it would go away. It would take a week, and it would go away.
Yeah. And how long from that point in your junior year in high school to where you had it to where you knew what it was?
That was actually I was battling that for about my junior year in high school, 2005. 2006, 2005. So it was 4 years of off and on with a little, like I thought, what we call with stinger pain, until my disc finally had completely just blew out and herniated completely in my neck.
And then, Devin, it really didn't. You kept getting the pains every now and then through 2005 to 2009, but then you said early 2009 when you went down to Florida and trained with Popovich and all them. That's when it really started hitting. Is that correct?
That's when I believe that's when it finally herniated. Yeah,
okay.
I think it was bulged in high school, and I think it finally herniated in 2009 because that was the most consistent pain, and it was like the pain from 2005 to 2009 was nothing compared to what I felt the day forward.
Yeah.
It was completely different. I never had tingling down my arm. I just had a little shoulder pain, and it would make my neck stiff when I heard it in high school. And then after it herniated, that's when I started losing my muscle. I started losing range of motion. I started to where I couldn't use my right arm anymore at all by the time I had found that my neck was hurt.
So now you got the MRI and they said complete herniation of C5, C6. What happened next? Was there any surgery? Did you or I'll let you just tell me, go from there.
And here comes the crazy battle back. So this is June 2009 that I find out that it's herniated, and the first thing the doctor has the nerve, and I know doctors, they got to be on the safe side, but the doctor almost with a smile on his face, and it kind of broke my heart and kind of made me get a little crazy, was he smiled and like, oh yeah, it's completely herniated. Whatever you're doing, you'll never do again. The doctor straight up and says that to my face. The first thing I hear after I herniated this is the doctor turns and says, hey man, you'll never do what you're doing again. And this is my life. I have a whole another backstory to tell about this, but jiu-jitsu is my life. I need jiu-jitsu in my life. And from that point, it was almost a mission to prove this doctor wrong.
That's
so
awesome.
It's kind of like fuel to my flame. So this happens. Throughout the next 6 months, I go through a series of cortisone shots. I get 2, and they're a big needle that goes straight into the disc. I had 2 go through the back of my neck and 1 through the front.
Ooh.
And those helped 0. They didn't shrink the disc. They didn't help the pain at all. They just put me in more pain because of how bad it sucked to have something shoved in your neck like that. I go through probably 3 months of rehab with 0. I'm having 0 results. I'm down in the dumps. I don't know what to do. I'm having some serious life issues with this. My relationships were starting to fail at that time. I just was being a very different person than what I should have been. And then, the final option, after trying, I literally tried everything in the book, everything you could do. Massage therapy, the cortisone shots, the rehab. We decided, even at 21, it was kind of a big deal. We decided to have neck surgery in December We set it up in November, and come December, I think December 1st of that year. So I hurt my neck in January of that year. In December, beginning of December, I have neck surgery, and my options were to put a metal plate in there, which would not be a great option for jiu-jitsu because there'd be no flexibility, or try a procedure to where they go through the back of my neck and just try to cut out the herniation, drill a hole in the disc, and let it try to regenerate itself. So I chose the second option. It was a pretty big, it's probably an 8-hour operation. It was a very scary thing to go through. I couldn't move for very much after I got out of surgery, but I always kept my spirits high. I always kept positive thoughts, and I always gave myself a chance to make it out, even though at that point I realized it was a very tough hill to climb. And also at the time, my instructor, Dustin Dennis, he was very supportive. He's very crazy. He still wanted me to train. I did a lot of specifics with my left arm. I never really got off the mat. I couldn't train. I couldn't do too much. I couldn't compete. But he always made me do something with my left hand to kind of keep my mind mentally in the game so I wouldn't lose focus completely of jiu-jitsu. So I have the surgery, pretty big operation, and I'm pretty much in bed rest for a month and a half, from December 1st to mid-January. I don't really do too much. Coming around March time, I've been resting. Everything's been feeling okay. I actually start getting my muscle starts coming back a little bit, and I start training. I actually start training 3 months later. Not completely 100%, but I got back on the mats, and 3 months after a major neck surgery and started training again. And I competed 3 months later in the World Championships of Jiu-Jitsu in June of 2010.
That's awesome.
What was your mindset going into that competition? Were you just happy to be back on the mat and doing well, or were you?
Oh man, yeah. As any competitor, because I do love to compete. As any competitor, of course, I wanted to win. But I'll tell you what, that was the last thing on my mind. I went out there. I lost 3-2 my first match, and I have no shame because I went out there and I was grappling with the guy we were competing, and I was on top of the world, man. There was never a better feeling. Even when I lost, I had tears of joy because I was like, man, this is incredible. My whole last year, my whole life just was upside down. 6 months before that, I couldn't move on an operating table, couldn't even move my neck. I had a huge scar in the back of my neck. I had the end of the day of what I went through, and to be competing 6 months after that was an incredible feeling. And at that time, I had nobody to kind of talk. Like, that injury wasn't very. I'm sure a lot of people had that injury, but I couldn't look up on Google or anything. I couldn't find anybody to give me inspiration. I kind of just stayed positive. And Archer. Speaking of Jason, he had some neck problems too. That guy, he stayed in my ear a lot too, and I just had good people around me to keep me motivated. And lo and behold, 4 years later, I guess 4 or 5 years later, I'm still on the mats and I'm still training and haven't had too many problems since.
And that was a question I was going to ask there too, where you said you haven't had too many problems since. Do you still feel it at all? Some days after a hard day of training, or if somebody's grabbing your neck in that situation.
Yeah. What did happen, because I had to cut into my muscle pretty deep. I do have some muscle spasms, which come with the surgery. I have some muscle spasms. As far as the nerve, I regained most of it. I had good nerve damage. I had nerve damage, and that takes quite a bit of time to repair. I dealt with the nerve damage for probably a year and a half afterwards, but I'm pretty much almost full functional. I got my muscle back in my chest, my muscle back in my tricep. I can feel my finger again. So all that actually regenerated itself. My disc regenerated itself. We got another MRI, and the thing looked like it was healthy, like it never got hurt, which is pretty incredible. I don't know how something like that could happen, but my neck regenerated. I had a great surgeon. My surgeon was fantastic, and to say that surgery is never a great option. I don't want people to run right to surgery if they have this injury. If you can do it through rehab, if you can do it through anything else, because I took a major risk. It was really my only option I had left if I really wanted to do this again. And, through the surgeon and through my rehab, it just happened to work. And I'm very thankful for that. But to get back to your question, I'm sorry to digress. But
no problem.
I do, my neck does get stiff, but I'm very smart about it now. I'm not I'm not going in like a full bore into my training sessions and trying to dive my neck and everything. I try to stay with Jason Butcher's guillotine as much as possible. And you know, I try to be smart. You know, I guess it has shown me how to protect my neck a lot better in jiu-jitsu. You know, I'm very wary of the chokes, but I train at 100%. You know, I don't train with a handicap. I don't tell guys to watch out for my neck. You know, I train smart. That's on me. It's not up to my training partners. I like to take, you know, that in my own hands, and I really haven't had any problems since then. And hopefully, you know, knock on wood that I don't. But so far, so good with my neck.
If you had a friend that had a similar injury, what would you tell your friend? Help them get through it, or about what they're getting ready to go through?
I would say no matter what, because man, the doctor's going to play. If you can't, you got to listen to a doctor to an extent, of course, you know, through the whole procedure. But when anybody tells you that you can't do something, it's so cliche, guys. It's so cliche to say like, don't let anybody. But it's very true, you know. And I took that to my own accord. Like, you listen to your own body and you play it by what you feel and how you feel, and stay positive, as hard as it is. And it was hard to stay positive. I had some days of very big doubt, but stay positive and continue on and continue to do everything smart. You know, don't rush back. Take your time, do the rehab, do everything necessary to kind of keep yourself every day you wake up, try to make a positive impact towards the right spot to get you back on the mats. You know, don't make it to where it's going to get any worse. I know you want to train. I know you want to get back on the mats, but be smart. You know, like I said, do something that's always going to be make a positive impact towards your recovery. But don't let anybody tell you that you can't do it. Until you can't do it, until there's no way you can do it anymore, there's always an option. Don't ever let that seed get planted in your head. If you want to get back, if you want to make it back, a person that loves something enough will find a way, and you'll find a way.
Yeah. And Devin, you're very inspirational. You know, your story, you know, you're just hearing your story, you've got to be one of the toughest people I've ever met in my life. I mean, you're a guy I want on my side. If I'm going into a back alley, I want that guy. But you know, we just appreciate you, you know, coming on and sharing your story with us, and you know, just a very positive person, you know. And man, your story just like gave me goosebumps. You know, it makes me realize, you know, with passion and a great attitude, we can accomplish anything.
Yeah, and you know that the doctor just told him, kind of like a smirk on his face, like, you know, you're crazy for doing this anyway. You're not going to do this anymore. You're done. And doctors do that all the time. I mean, anytime I go to my doctor, they look at me like, what were you doing? It's like, this is what we do. I mean, it doesn't matter what we're doing. Get us back to what we want to do for our lives. And you're my doctor. Help me out. Don't limit me and give me closed doors on me. And I could. You know, I've never been in a situation where they said you're not ever doing that again. But man, I could feel it in you, man. Thanks for sharing that. That's a huge impact in the story, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys for having me on here, and yeah, I mean, I feel like doctors, if they don't understand, they don't know, that's the route they're gonna take, and people can't let that affect them. I mean, there's always a time. I'm sure there's a time, like if somebody's really pretty hurt, they gotta listen. But if a person knows, you know your body more than anybody else, more than this doctor knows. The doctor can look at an MRI, tell you whatever, but you know your body, and as long as you know you can handle and do what you got to do, you got to listen to yourself. You got to listen to your body and do, because like you said, this is our life. Jiu-jitsu is our life, and you just gotta fight through it and do what you got to do to get back on the mat. And you can't have somebody like that doesn't know you look you in your face until you never do it again. You just got to keep fighting.
And thank you so much for sharing your story. We're honored to have you on here, and I'm sure people, even if they don't have a neck injury, your philosophy towards getting past a serious injury is going to help anybody.
That's going to help in any injury, and you know, it's an attitude and a positive attitude, and just good old fashioned work ethic. You know, nothing. You put a wall in front of Devin, he's going to knock it down. He's going to find a way around it. There's no stopping Devin. So thank you, Devin.
Yeah, thank you guys, and yeah, I really do hope it reaches somebody and makes a difference. So I really appreciate you guys having me on.
All right, thanks, buddy.
Thank you.
Okay, hey, we have our next caller on the phone now. We've got Michael from Dallas, Texas here, and we appreciate you joining us today, Michael.
No problem, thanks.
you're going to tell us a little bit about a shoulder injury that you got from a key lock submission. But first, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Let's see. I've been doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu off and on since '96. I started off with Pedro Sauer in Salt Lake City.
Cool.
And then when I moved to Dallas, I was a 4-stripe white belt and got my blue belt with Carlos Machado. And then had some injuries and got married and took a long break from jiu-jitsu and found a place that Helson Gracie affiliate. It's called the Danger Academy in Wiley, Texas. And I eventually got my purple belt with Helson Gracie, and that's currently where I train. I also train with John Machado in Allen, Texas.
Oh, that's awesome. Congratulations there, purple belt, and been training a long time. That's neat to hear.
Yep, off and on. Just life happens.
Yeah, I think that's happened to all of us.
You started way before we did. That's an impressive time to start.
I was going to say, especially Pedro Sauer back in his main academy there.
Cool.
So that's pretty neat.
Yeah, it goes way back.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your injury. What happened leading up to it?
We were just doing some simple drills, and we were going over key lock that day, and I was being the good student and being very helpful with the guy who was doing the key lock on me, and I didn't expect him to go from to 100% when we were drilling, and that's exactly what happened, and I found myself bridging pretty fast to relieve the pressure. And I didn't feel anything happen. It just, hurt a lot. And then just, kept training that day, and I probably didn't get looked at for probably a month.
Okay,
and,
so you said you were not, we're not rolling. You're actually just drilling, just doing the movements.
Just drilling.
That's too bad. I think that's pretty rare in most. I've never really heard of anybody actually getting that injured during drilling. That's too bad, man. I do let your guard down a bit during the drilling.
I'm sorry?
You let your guard down while you're drilling, and you just kind of, like I say, you help your teammates get better.
You're supposed to. You have to be a good training partner and don't give resistance because they can't learn if you're resisting. And I'd probably seen the guy once or twice before in our class, and I've probably seen him 3 times since, and it's been a long time, a couple of years.
So what actually happened in your shoulder?
I eventually went to orthopedic surgeon, and I had an MRI, and they saw that the labrum was torn off the shoulder, and I needed to get surgery to get it fixed. And that's what ended up happening. I had to get the 2 titanium anchors put into my shoulder to anchor that labrum back down.
And then after you had your surgery, did they start rehab right away? And I know I've heard.
Rehab probably about 2 weeks after the shoulder surgery. I had it in a sling for quite a while, and I had a buddy who had a shoulder surgery, so he had a really awesome modified igloo cooler that has a pump that you fill with ice and water, and you can pump this water through these tubes, and there's a specific attachments for knees or whatever, and he had one for his shoulder, and I used that thing for probably a good 3 months to just keep it comfortable.
Yeah, because I've heard, different training partners I've had and just regular people who don't even train that's had shoulder injuries, that shoulder rehab is very, very painful, very not a fun one to go through.
Yeah, I work in the medical field, and I see people with knee injuries and shoulder injuries, and talking to a lot of people, they said they'd rather have a knee done than a shoulder because the knee only goes back and forth, but your shoulder is a wide range of motion, and that's pretty tough to come back from. It's pretty hard.
How long were you off the mats, from that drilling injury that day till, your surgery, and then you went through rehab? Like, how long till you got back on the mats?
I probably took a good 9 months off. My wife wasn't too happy, and I promised her I wouldn't compete in 2014, which is pretty rough because there's a lot of tournaments here in Texas. But I just took a long time, just took my time. And when I got back on the mat, I told the guys, "Hey, my shoulder," and everybody understood, and they were pretty good.
Yep, and that goes back to like what you were saying about before, good training partners. You got back on the mat and told them, and they're like, "Hey, we'll roll, and I'll take care of you."
Yeah, like I said, I haven't seen that guy not much before, not Jack, so he's not a regular at our place.
Yeah. It doesn't sound like a regular anywhere. If you're gonna, that's not how you train jiu-jitsu. It's not effective.
Yeah, you treat everybody with kindness, and usually it comes back, but not that day, I guess.
You got my interest peaked a little bit. You mentioned a modified igloo cooler. Did he make that himself, or what is this thing?
Let me see if I can find it. It looks like a little igloo container that can hold like maybe 6 to 9 cans, but I know it's a machine you can get anywhere. Like it.
And you pump in cold water to around your shoulder.
Yeah, there's specific. You can buy different attachments for specific body parts, and snap off from the tubing. And my friend just had one. Perfection for me, and it's called EB Ice.
EB Ice.
EB Ice.
Okay, that's good to know. I've never seen one of those before.
And Michael, when you were out the 9 months there, did you do any cross training? I mean, were you able to do any kind of cardio or anything else on the side, or was it just too painful and just doing your rehab?
No, I just took it easy. I wasn't into CrossFit or any cross training, and so I just hung out and tried to modify my diet so I didn't explode and get fat, and just took it easy. It's because your shoulder's in a sling. You don't have really much of a choice.
Yeah, that's the bad thing, like you said about the shoulder. It's in a sling. Anything you're doing is going to put some pressure on it and affect you. Do you still? Does it affect you today? Like if somebody's going for a key lock or an Americana or just anything, do you still feel the aches today?
No, I still I see my friend is a chiropractor. I see him every now and then, but it hasn't bothered me since I did the right rehab and took my time coming back, and just had to be patient. You get that, you got the jiu-jitsu bug. Anytime you go to the mat, you want to get on, but you just have to be patient, and I haven't had any problems. I've been back at it for quite a while, and just I guess pay attention more to not getting in a key lock. But again, we were just drilling, so it was rather unexpected.
Yeah, there's nothing you could have done that could happen to anybody if it's with the wrong person. Everyone puts themselves in that spot when you're drilling moves. If a friend of yours had the similar shoulder injury, what would you tell them? As they face this recovery and the surgery.
Well, shoulder surgeries are pretty tricky because you don't know exactly what's going on until you see an orthopedic surgeon and you get an MRI. So I would say get the MRI first and then go from there. But I mean, if you're hurting and if it was the same exact injury as mine, I would say just go ahead and get it done because it's just going to get worse. It doesn't heal on its own.
Okay, that's solid advice. You're gonna better I'll fix it now than later. It's not going to get any better.
And as Michael said, it doesn't heal on its own.
I'm sorry?
It doesn't heal on its own. You have to get it.
No, it does not. It does not, and it's just your bone grinding on bone, and it's not comfortable at all. I went through a lot of ibuprofen and Tiger Balm. You name it, I used it.
Sounds like a difficult experience. Glad you're back on the mat and doing well.
Yes, sir. It's good to be back on the mat.
All right. Well, we appreciate you getting on here with us and sharing your story. I think you're going to help. Shoulder injuries are fairly common, and
very common.
Yeah. So I think it'll be good to hear and know that you can overcome this in a certain amount of time and get you back on the mat. So that's good. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, guys. Next, we have Mike here on the line with us. He's going to be talking today of the joy in jiu-jitsu we call ringworm, but a little different than most. He got it in his scalp, and it was quite a severe case. How are you doing today, Mike?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Doing pretty good. I've been ringworm free for several years, but I think given enough time, most people get it. But it's a good day if you don't have it, I guess. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you train, and any background you want to share about training?
Sure. So I first started jiu-jitsu back in 2003. I was stationed in San Diego, and at the time, Dean Lister was training at City Boxing in San Diego. And, he at that time, he was Abu Dhabi absolute winner. He had a belt in King of the Cage. He was a huge name.
Yeah.
So it was a great gym back then. And from there, and we'll talk about later, but, I did get ringworm, which prevented me to train for a while, and so I didn't train for a few years. I moved back to Wichita. I trained here with a couple of different guys, and recently I started training again, and I forgot how much I loved it, but still ringworm free.
It's good to have you back on the mats, man.
Yeah, I love it. I really love it.
So you mentioned a little bit about your history. What happened? Why do you think you ended up getting ringworm?
Well, I think it's kind of peculiar because the gym I was training at, City Boxing, they were very meticulous with keeping the mats clean. Before and after each class, it would be swept, it would be sprayed down and mopped, and of course there's rules, no shoes on the mat, that kind of thing. Don't walk in the restroom with bare feet. But I ended up getting it. I mean, there was a large volume of people in and out of the gym. And I think it was just inevitable at some point there's some kind of, skin disease that is communicable that you'll get in an environment like that. So I did end up getting it there, and unfortunately. And coming back to the gym later, people didn't really remember if anyone else had ringworm at the time, but I assume there's always people who come in for one or two classes that like it. I could have got it from anywhere. Yeah,
and I imagine with somebody like Dean Lister, he's got a lot of guys just dropping in who are in town for the weekend or whatever, and they want to train with him in his gym, and you're going to get a lot of that coming in and out of there, and you don't know. I mean, you don't know.
Exactly. Yeah. We'd see famous fighters come in and train, but all kinds of people just checking out the gym. There's a high volume of people in and out of there.
And your ringworm was on your scalp?
Yes. There was actually a couple places where it showed up about the same time. One part was on my upper chest, and that it went away pretty easy. I mean, if you're in an area with exposed skin, there's usually a lot of topical things you can put on it, and it'll just wipe it out. So that wasn't the biggie. But I had one in the back of my scalp, just right around the beginning where the hair starts in the back of your neck. And I had what I thought was a bug bite at the time, but it started to grow, and eventually it became very noticeable that it was ringworm.
How does it look? I mean, does it affect the way your hair grows? How do you know? I mean, you have a wonderful hairstyle, so.
I do.
How did you know that you had ringworm?
I use a lot of product in my hair. I keep my hair really short now, and I think one of the reasons maybe because I had so many issues with that, and I like just very clean. I know exactly what's going on with my head kind of style. But when it starts out, it looks and feels like maybe you just got a really itchy bug bite, or maybe just some kind of mosquito bite that's just really starting to get inflamed. And I think it's a little more noticeable because it's more itchy than normal. It just seems to persist. And it slowly grows in size, and also it has a little more mass underneath it, almost like a welt. And at a certain point, it'll start to plateau out. Hopefully, no one's going to be eating while they're listening to this. But it starts to plateau out.
I'm eating right now.
What's that?
I said I'm eating right now, man. Just to.
Oh, great!
Yeah, that's delicious. I'm just messing with
you. It'll start to plateau out, and it's a very distinctive look, and that's where it gets the ring look, because the outer edge of it, I read a lot about ringworm after having it so long. The outer edge of it is the active edge of it where it's spreading out, and the inner part is where your skin is kind of healing back. So as it starts to get larger and larger, you'll start to see the inner part of the ring looking more normal, and you'll see that inflamed ring, and that's where you get the name ringworm. But it's just a fungus that spreads out like that. So, within the first few weeks, it may just look like a really killer bug bite, and then you'll definitely see the ring start to develop.
And you mentioned that topical stuff worked great on your chest. How'd that work on your scalp?
Yeah, so the topical stuff, I was in the military at the time. I went to medical. They gave me a tube of some kind of antifungal topical stuff, put it on the chest as directed. That wiped it out very quickly. In the scalp, I did the same thing. I applied it in the area, and at first it seemed to work. The inflammation and all that seemed to die away. There wasn't the characteristic ring ridge in there. However, there was still like a definite mass underneath the skin, and I'd gone back to medical and asked about it, and they thought it was fine. The problem was, I would say about 2 weeks after that, after I thought it was okay, it's subsiding. For some reason, there's just still some mass under there. It would come back. And I'd go back and they'd say, apply this ointment again. I'd do the same thing. It would start to go away, and then it'd come back. And each time I would repeat this, it became more and more resistant until finally, none of this topical stuff was working anymore. And that was the point where it seemed like it was a really annoying problem, because in these little periods where I felt like it was taken care of, it almost seemed like it's completely gone. I'd go back to the gym. And, I loved jiu-jitsu. At the time, I was training every single day that I could. They had classes, Monday through Saturday. So any day I could, I was up there. And it really killed me to realize, oh, crap, it's coming back. I can't go to the gym.
Yeah.
So, right.
So how long was this process? Let's say how long, the one on your chest, how long until that went away?
The one on the chest, honestly, I think 1 to 2 weeks.
Okay.
It was gone. It just the inflammation went away, the itching went away, and this ridge just kind of fell off, and it was just like skin. It was just new skin. The entire process for the one that was in my scalp was much longer. There was several weeks where I was messing with the ointments. It would subside, it'd come back, subside, come back, and in the end, I think, honestly, roughly 4 months, maybe.
Okay.
4 months where I had this ringworm to come back super resistant each time.
You kept building it stronger and stronger.
Yeah, it kept becoming more and more strong. Man. And what actually I ended up doing was my girlfriend at the time, my wife now, she looked it up. I didn't have a lot of confidence in the person I was going to treat this, because what I found out later was using these kind of topical creams in the scalp area is a definite no-no. It causes it to do exactly like I said. It becomes more resistant. It goes deeper below the skin, and it just becomes more hardy. It's able to resist that kind of ointment. So there was a couple things I could have done. I could have got a antifungal pill, and that'll go through your system and kill any kind of fungus. The only thing there is it can be very rough on your internal organs, and so that kind of, I was thinking, okay, that's a last step thing. Let me see what else I can try. And my girlfriend had found out that tea tree oil, just regular tea tree oil that you can, find at maybe a pharmacy type place, something like that, or, even a place where you might get oils for making candles, things like that. That's really good at killing fungus. It really wipes it out. But the thing to be cautious with is straight tea tree oil can be rough on your skin, and after several days of applying it, it can take off some outer layers of your skin, and the area will be raw. So there's a plus and minus side. For me, the plus was I got rid of this horrible, itchy thing on the back of my head, so I could deal with a little rawness for a few weeks. So that definitely took care of it.
Has this had any lasting side effects, having the ringworm that became stronger than your average ringworm?
Well, after using different things, using tea tree oil to eventually get rid of any ringworm I did have, I did notice that I'd say a couple times a year, at least 2 times a year, it would just seem to come back. But it'd be different places, so it didn't. This isn't really something that should just be traveling through your body like that. If it does, you have a serious problem. But I didn't think so, because I get a little bit here, a little bit there every few months. I'm thinking, is it from the gym? Our gym's really clean. What's going on? And I actually battled this after I completely stopped rolling. Went on deployment, and I would get it, which was really odd, because I wasn't on mats. I don't know where I was getting it from. And even when I'm just completely in an environment where I shouldn't, I would still get it. And it wasn't until I had gone to a doctor, because I started to get this entire body rash at some point. And this was, I'd say, 4 years after I originally got ringworm. I went to a doctor who was very good with sports medicine. He had worked a lot with high school wrestlers, and I gave him my entire life story with ringworm and with everything else, and how have had these recurring appearances of ringworm even when I shouldn't. I'm not around like a jiu-jitsu environment. And what he said is, it sounds like because it was mistreated and I had such a long history with it coming back over and over and over, it's almost like an allergy. My body had become sensitized to any kind of fungus or even other kinds of skin infections. And I just was more susceptible to it. And when I would get any kind of skin infection, my body would kind of overreact. And, I asked him if there's any way to kind of shortcut this process and get past the whole thing. And he said it was really a thing where your body has to almost recalibrate itself. And at some point, I'd say around 6 years after this is going to sound really bad for anyone who has ringworm now, but I would say about 6 years after the initial occurrence, my body seemed to just finally kick it, and I didn't have any more skin irritations after that. And again, this isn't going to be everyone's normal experience with ringworm. I think mine was a little unique because of how it was originally treated. So now I maintain a lot of really good skin hygiene, before and after rolling to make sure it doesn't come back. Okay.
Let's say you've got a friend who's got, hey, I think I've got ringworm on the back of my head or whatever. What advice would you tell them?
Well, first thing I would say is definitely don't go to the gym. Don't think you're tough and other people are tough, and we're out here submitting people. I'm not going to worry about this little itchy thing. Don't put other people through this. It's not fun, and it's not fair. If you know you have something like that or suspect you have it, just don't go to the gym. If you have it in just a normal place, your arm or something like that, often you can get something over the counter, some kind of topical cream applied on there. If you do have it in any peculiar place, like I said, on the scalp, I would recommend you go in to see a doctor, because and not just any doctor. One of my problems, like I said, was going to someone who hadn't really seen this before and did what they thought was right. Not their fault; they just hadn't experienced it before. If you have a doctor who has a good background with sports medicine, especially something, maybe they have a background with working with wrestlers or something like that, where they get a lot of skin communicable type diseases, that would be great, because they'll know what they're looking at, and maybe they'll put you on an antifungal pill or something more strong, and take care of it right the first time rather than go through what I went through.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. Appreciate you hopping on here and sharing your story with everybody, and hopefully you'll save some people some I would say headaches, but some skin rashes.
I hope so.
All right, guys, we have Jim on the line with us today. He's going to talk to us about his lumbar fusion. How are you doing today, Jim?
I'm doing great, Byron. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. We're glad to have you on, and looking forward to learning from you and having you share your story with everybody. Appreciate it.
Sure. Looking forward to it.
Could you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you train, how long you've been training, stuff like that?
Sure. I started martial arts back in February, practicing Shotokan karate at Temple University. I'm 50 years old now. I've been training pretty much 6 or 7 times a week all my life. Various injuries, but working on a karate demonstration back in, I think, 84. So I got flipped on my back pretty hard on a hardwood surface. And I went to the hospital right away. Thankfully, they didn't see any damage, things like that. So a couple of days later, I healed up because you're 19, 20 years old. You heal really fast. Unbeknownst to me, that there was a hairline fracture of one of my vertebrae. And over the course of 25 years, that fracture healed itself because the muscles held it in place. However, it actually overcompensated and overhealed. So I experienced what's called stenosis, where the hole going through my vertebra, where my spinal cord goes, was getting smaller and smaller and smaller. I had no idea about this. So one day at jiu-jitsu, suddenly I felt like I had been squatting, 225 pounds over and over and over for a couple of days. It was very hard to walk. So I went to the doctor. He sent me for the x-rays, MRIs, things like that. All that stuff takes a while to come back. So, after about 2 weeks or so, I started feeling better. Things are going much better. I get a call from the doctor. He says, Jim, have you ever injured your back before? And I said, yeah, back in college. I think I had a fractured vertebrae. He goes, well, we got a problem. You have to see a surgeon. I was like, wow. And, at that point, your whole world is just like, holy crap, this is bad.
So let me ask you. So you originally hurt your back in '84. When was it when this doctor told you? You haven't?
It was in 2010.
Okay. Wow.
Okay. I'd been doing jiu-jitsu for about almost 3 years, loving it, training 6-7 times a week, and then suddenly I hear I need a spinal fusion. I was like, oh my God, what do I do? Well, I'm a medical device recruiter, so the first thing I do is I called some of my clients who have some of the top surgeons as their customers, and I said, guys, I need a spinal fusion. They're like, are you kidding me? And I said, no. So they gave me a couple of guys to go to. Thankfully, I was able to go to this place where I live in New Jersey called Coastal Spine, and there's a neurosurgeon there, Mark Testaiuti, who is such a great surgeon. When other surgeons need to have their operations, whenever they need work done on themselves, they come to this guy. Okay?
That's a good sign.
I go into his office. The guy's in shape. He's an ex-gymnast. He sees what I do, and he's like, you know what? This is a walk in the park for me. I'm just going to take the disc out. I'm going to put some titanium nuts and bolts and screws in there and blah, 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 and it'll be good as new. I was like, oh, really?
Yeah.
So it took almost 4 months to even get scheduled for the operation because they went in both through the stomach as well as flipped me over and went in through the back in a non-invasive way. And then, so I went in for the surgery in November of, I believe, 2010. I was in the operating room for 5 hours. I woke up. I was in the hospital for about 5 days. Hurt like hell. And then, about a week or two later, you start physical therapy. And, because I've always been in shape, it wasn't that hard because now my spine was put back together and I woke up with no sciatic pain. So that was incredible. And then my physical therapist turned out to be a major MMA fan.
Yeah.
So he's like, Jim, you're in much better shape than almost any other patient I see, but I don't care. I'm going to make you even in better shape. So it's almost like I had a personal trainer for the next 2 months as I was recovering. So I got to the point where it was recovered enough that the physical therapist discharged me. I went back into the gym, and a couple of my buddies are rolling around, and I said, hey, you want to roll around a little bit? And they was like, yeah, but, be really careful. So I rolled, and it actually started feeling even better from that, Byron, because it it just started working those muscles again. The biggest situation about surgery is that when you're on the web, you're not going to see very many happy people because they've already gotten back to their lives. The people who are posting on the web are usually very sad, they're upset, it's not working for them, and many times they're hooked on medication. Okay? I can't say enough about modern medicine and surgical procedures. If you're already in good shape and you need the surgery, because you'll know because you can't walk or you're just debilitated in some way, find the best surgeon you can and put your ultimate trust in that person because, these guys really know what they're doing. Get a couple opinions, of course, but, I would say that, once I got back into it, in training, I started competing again. I went back to winning gold, silvers, and bronze, and I'm back to training 6 or 7 times a week. Pretty much good as new. But the real, I would say like 99.9% is completely healed. The worst part, though, is that I lost quite a bit of flexibility in my hamstrings, which, from being sedentary and from what I hear, lower back operations can cause that to happen. But, I don't mind having a little bit of loss of flexibility to have, complete physical mobility again.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a huge major operation, and if you see the X-ray, I actually look like Wolverine with a little bit of adamantium built up around my spine. But for the most part, I don't even think about it anymore.
Really? That's good.
So it's.
How long would you say? You had the surgery in November 2010. How long until you stopped thinking about it a lot when you would go train?
I was completely off the mat for 4.5 months. Okay. I got back. I had the surgery the 2 days after Thanksgiving in 2010. I was back on the mat by May 2011, and it was about a couple every day got better and better as the rest of your body acclimates to jiu-jitsu and all the surrounding muscles start getting strong again. You're not really thinking about the surgery you had because the rest of your body is starting to feel really good again.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm 50 years old now, so 3 years ago, I felt like not being able to train, I almost reached my natural age in how I felt. But as soon as I started training again, it's like I felt like I was getting younger and younger every day again, which was just completely amazing. So I didn't think much about the surgery as much as I was thinking about getting back in shape and really enjoying it. And then, I didn't really roll extremely hard, because as you're getting back in shape, the whole body's getting back in shape.
Yeah.
But the really cool thing my surgeon said is, he was like, Jim, once these, titanium rods and such, they're really secure. I said, you'd have to fall out of a 2-story window in order to dislodge anything that I put back there. So, so much of it is the confidence your surgeon has that really transfers that enthusiasm.
Yeah.
It's like if you go to the right surgeon and he says, look, I've done this before for, my guy said, I've done this for paratroopers. And, I'm not jumping out of airplanes anymore. So, but just that level of confidence, it's like you and your surgeon working together and, I had a great outcome. So that's just turned into an amazing thing.
Yeah, that sounds like you had a good combination of a great surgeon and then, you went into it in shape and then you had a good attitude towards rehab.
The major part of it is you want to be in the best shape you can before you go into surgery because it makes recovery so much easier. So much easier. Definitely. I saw so many people in there, Byron, as patients that I kind of think of them as like crumbling buildings.
Yeah.
Just out of shape, overweight, already giving up on who they are physically, that I can't imagine them going through the trauma of having spine surgery and having much of a better recovery because they're not really recovering back to much. So I can see why they're hooked on the medication, why they're this, why they're that. And thankfully that wasn't me.
Wow.
So,
Looking back over the years since you hurt your back in '84, did you see any signs of maybe this
Nothing.
condition? Nothing at all, huh?
nothing. It was the craziest thing. I didn't even know that I cracked a vertebra until a couple years later, after I got flipped on my back. I got kicked in the chest, so I went to the hospital for X-rays, and like, your ribs are fine, but did you know that you had a cracked vertebra? And I was like, are you kidding me? And they showed me the calcification line on the vertebra that they would not have seen initially because it was such a hairline fracture. But I had no idea that it was going to overcompensate for itself and develop into the stenosis. Just unbelievable. But
yeah,
thankfully things worked out really well, and I'm very thankful. And I think it's real important that if someone has an injury that is compromising their quality of life,
yeah,
when you need surgery, because you can't walk, or you can't move, or you can't basically live day to day without constantly being in pain. That's how it was for me, and it came out of nowhere. But I knew right away, there's no way around this. I need surgery, and that was a really, really sobering thing to hear a neurosurgeon sit you down and say, "Yeah, I'm going to have to go in there and I'm going to put these rods and screws and all this stuff in there." And a month before that, I was great training for my first tournament.
Yeah. Wow.
So.
And you said it was L4 and L5, and they fused them together?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So now I have one disc was taken out, and they put a metal cage in there the same size as a disc called a spacer, and they fill that with bone growth material, and they screw it all back together, and the two vertebrae fuse into one. That's where the term spinal fusion comes from. Wow. It's amazing how much research. It's amazing when you need an operation like that, how much of an education you tend to give yourself.
Yeah,
because you realize you're going to be on the table for 5 hours, and it's a big deal. And everything you read on the web is really unhappy people because they weren't in shape to begin with. But my neurosurgeon will say that I'm the best outcome he's ever seen. But I told him I was going to be, because I said this isn't going to change me in any way other than I'm just going to be off the mats for a little while. And that was it.
That's good. You had that. I mean, you didn't want this to affect the things that you enjoy in life.
I wouldn't allow it to.
Yeah.
Because I'm an extremely physical person.
I'm seeing
work
that.
out every day.
Yeah.
Guys, and then when I read about guys having spine issues and things like that, I'm like, look, you could try holistic medicine, you can try acupuncture, you can try all that pseudoscience, but if the surgeon or the pain specialist says try an epidural anti-inflammatory injection, get one. It's cutting edge science. It's amazing. They work. It just it kind of amazes me how long someone will go being in pain just because they quote unquote don't want to go the medical route. Well, the medical route, all of the time it took to be the cutting edge. That's the best science out there. It's just sometimes there's a lot of confusion because there's so many unhappy people on the web posting about their quote unquote bad experiences, when people like myself, can't say enough about modern medicine.
Yeah, and we are all lucky to live in the day and age that we do live in. I mean, there's something to be said to take advantage of that.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's just like, for example, my surgery, instead of filleting me down the center and pulling me open, all that stuff, they use a minimally invasive approach where they just made very small slits, and they put larger and larger tubes inside to open up where they need to go, and then they use special instruments to make it happen. So the recovery period was much, much faster.
That's good. If you have a friend who's looking at a similar surgery, you know, obviously you're going to recommend finding the best possible surgeon. But what would you tell them to expect, or just like a heads up, you know, be ready for this?
Okay. Don't take this the wrong way.
Okay.
No one really told me about the constipation.
Okay. It's good to
You're
know.
going into surgery, they're going to put you to sleep, and they use really, really strong anesthetics, really strong opioids. So surgical pain's one thing. The constipation that comes in the weeks after from being on the opioids and being on the pain medicine, Byron, it's worse than surgical pain. So I would say anyone who's going into it, you know, be ready for that.
Yeah.
Be very cognizant of the fact that you're going to be on really strong painkillers. Everybody will develop a little bit of addiction after 3 weeks, but that's fine. As soon as you go off them, you know, you're good to go because you're so happy that you're not in pain anymore. But it's a weird feeling for about 24 hours or so, you know. But, you know, for the most part, find the best surgeon you can and trust them. You know, put your faith in them. See if they've worked on other athletes. You know, tell them, show them, this is what I do in jiu-jitsu. This is what I do in MMA. Can you get me back to this?
Yeah.
And if they say, no, I can't, find another one.
Yeah.
Because there's no reason why you can't. Tito Ortiz did it. Nate Quarry called me on the phone because my coach, Marco Perazzo, is good friends with him. He called me on the phone to talk to me about it. And like,
well, that's nice.
Like, like 2 weeks before I went in, you know, so we had a conversation there. So there's a lot of guys out there who've had major surgery. It's not just the football players having their knees scoped, you know. There's no reason why an amateur athlete can't have any kind of surgery and have excellent outcomes.
You went into it with in great shape, and I mean that's cool that Nate Quarry gave you a call and kind of gave you a heads up. That's real nice of him, and you definitely find the right surgeon to get you where you want to be.
The right surgeon makes all the difference because they've done it numerous times, and it's like a good instructor. They transfer enthusiasm. They get you excited for it. They make you, you know, the more they make you feel like this is just what they do and they're really good at it, the more trust you have in them, you know, and that's really key.
Yeah.
You know, that goes a real long way. Plus, I had a great physical therapist. The guy was an MMA fan. We went in there and talked MMA as he worked the hell out of me, you know? Which was great. You know, it
made it funner.
It just made me feel like I'm only off the mats for a little bit of time because I got a great team to put me back down.
Oh, good.
To put me back out there.
You mentioned the pain medicine. I think, you know, as adults that aren't addicted to anything, you know, any substances or anything like that. And then a lot of times somebody will have a back surgery and then they become, you know, here you are at whatever age, you know, you're not hooked on anything, and then you're hooked on these pain pills for your back. How was breaking that addiction? You said it wasn't that bad for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was put on OxyContin. I was put on OxyContin.
Okay.
Which is, you know, basically the best kind of pharmaceutical grade heroin you can get without being injected with heroin. But I'm an executive recruiter. My business was very busy, and so as soon as I got out of the hospital that Friday, I was back on the phones, and then from then on, I had Christmas coming up and all kinds of stuff. But the OxyContin not only allowed me to function, but allowed me to function at a high level. Okay, and after about, I think, 28 days, when I went back in for my second checkup, the surgeon said, "Jim, you're doing great. You don't even need the oxy anymore. Let's just keep you on the Percocet." And I said, "Okay, fine, let's do it." So I came home that day, and I didn't take any OxyContin, and I just took a Percocet. And a little while later, I started feeling horrible. You know, I just felt like just edgy. This really wasn't working for me. Maybe I needed some some kind of different pain medicine.
It wasn't your back that was feeling bad. It was just your body was unhappy.
It was my back, my body,
Okay.
everything, and I was irritable. So I called the surgical group. My surgeon was on vacation, because it was right after Christmas. I finally got hold of another surgeon, and I said, maybe we need some Vicodin or something. He goes, Jim, you're going through withdrawal. And that was a major bell ringer. So what I did was I said to myself, you know what? Since the Percocet makes me feel horrible anyway, maybe I don't really need any more pain medicine. Why don't I just see where I am pain-wise? So I stopped everything. And then after about, I guess about 12 hours, I started to realize, you know what? My back is not throbbing. I'm not really feeling anything other than just the stiffness and you feel a kind of solidity. It's a weird feeling when you've had an operation where you know that your spine's been opened up.
Yeah.
It feels really heavy back there. Okay, but nothing felt painful other than just that heaviness. So at that point I realized, I don't probably even need any more pain medicine. And that was really liberating because I could see how a lot of people would say, no, man, I need more oxy. I've got to have it, And while I was going for my physical therapy, the physical therapist was just regaling me with stories of just little old ladies hooked on the pain medicine, trying to, strangle whoever they could to get more of it, It's like, because it's biologically addictive. There's nothing you can do to stop the addiction process. That's the scary part.
Yeah. But
the fact I was only on it for 27, 28 days made it much, much easier. And I asked the surgeon, I said, if I'd wanted more oxy, would you have given it to me? He says, yeah, probably for about another week or so more. And I remember before the surgery, all the patients who were getting surgery that month from this practice, we had to go to to an educational seminar where they talked about the surgery itself, what to expect, things like that. And basically, one physician's assistant said, look, you'll be on really strong pain medication for anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks. After that, if you still feel you need that pain medication, we have a specialist counselor here, and the guy stood up, who will help you with overcoming that addiction because you will no longer be in surgical pain. So therefore, we're not going to prescribe it for you. That was really interesting as well.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah. So thankfully, I didn't really get hooked in anyway because I just wanted to get back to jiu-jitsu because that's what I'm hooked on.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's a good thing to be hooked on.
I can see where other people would have a major problem.
Okay, man, I appreciate it. It's been good talking with you and learning about first the back surgery and then dealing with the pain medicine and your insights on dealing with surgery and finding a good person to work with.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, modern medicine is amazing. Find the right surgeon. You'll know if you need surgery. And, a lot of us have great outcomes. We just don't post about it on the web, so don't trust the web. The web is not a good cross-section of the population, okay?
Yeah.
It's a lot of really unhappy people who are hooked on pain medicine and wondering why they're still in pain.
Yeah. That does make sense.
So,
you're more likely to write a bad review for
That's
a product.
why I was excited to speak to you on this podcast because I know that there's not enough guys out. There's not enough guys like me out there who have really come forth and say, guys, you got a problem, get it fixed because they can fix it.
Very good. We appreciate you coming on here.
Sure, Byron.
All right. Thanks, Jim.
Sure. My pleasure.
Okay, guys. Now we have Ariel with us on the line. She's going to talk to us a little bit about her knee injury and how she overcame that. How are you doing today, Ariel?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's been an interesting day so far. Talked to quite a few people, and it's sometimes a little discouraging hearing all the injuries, but people come back and they get back to training, and that's also motivating. It's just life gives you a little hurdle sometimes to overcome. So
yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you train, who you are, and any sort of background you have training?
Sure. I'm in Pensacola, Florida, and I train at the Academy of Pensacola. And I was been training now for, including the time off that I've been off the mat, for just about a year and a half now. My mat time varies because I was off the mat so long with my injury. And I've been training jiu-jitsu and judo, and I'm about to start participating in our kickboxing classes.
Cool. You sound busy.
Yeah.
A lot of
fun.
training.
You know, it gets addictive.
Yes, it does. But tell us about your injury. How did it happen?
Well, I had been training jiu-jitsu for about almost 3 months, and there was actually a competition that was going to literally be in my neighborhood, like 3 blocks away from my house. And I was like, oh, I can do this. But I had a problem, which was they start you standing up.
Yeah.
And so I got the harebrained idea, let's do judo, because the best way to take your opponent to the mat is to throw them there, right?
Yeah, that's a good way to do it.
Yeah. So I figured I'd start taking judo classes, and at the end of my 3rd class, where we do a traditional randori for about 15 minutes, 5-minute rounds or so, just trying to knock each other down, my training partner got a little imaginative and tried to attempt a move that had never been taught to us, and it went wrong, unfortunately. I ended up with a full thickness tear of my ACL, my MCL, and a partial tear of my meniscus.
That sounds pretty bad. Did you know it was injured when it happened immediately?
Oh yes. You can think a lot of thoughts before you hit the mat, and I heard those classic 3 pops that people talk about when they talk about busting their knee. And the first one I thought, oh man, I've really done something. And then the second one I was like, well, maybe that just clicked it right back into place. And by the 3rd pop, there was like a lot of pain. So I knew I had definitely done something wrong.
So what did you do after that?
Well, I was actually told, because this was kind of like a common injury, I guess, by some of my teammates, that it was almost not worth it to go to the ER. So I managed to find a doctor who would see me the next day, an actual orthopedic surgeon. And we immediately started talking about treatments and how to get the swelling down and physical therapy and things like that. Ultimately, I decided I would actually go with a different orthopedic surgeon because the treatment plan that the first one had me on kept me on crutches for about a month and a half before she even wanted to consider doing surgery. And I found that unacceptable. Like the more time that I went without surgery, I felt the more time I would be off the mat and not learning.
How did you know for sure? Like I'll have, a pop and some soreness in a joint. How did you know for sure that you needed to go to a doctor that next day?
Well, we have the benefit of having some sports medicine and physical therapists on the team. And as soon as I hit the mat and was in extreme pain, they came over and, tried to calm me down, and they did what's called a drawer test, where they kind of pull the back of your calf to see if your shin pops out. And if it does, your ACL is gone. And so they did the drawer test, and it was very positive.
Okay, that's yeah. It does not sound like a good time.
No, but it shows how you can utilize your teammates and their extra skills that they have off the mat.
It is incredible the variety of people that are in a jiu-jitsu gym or judo in that instance. But yeah, a lot of different skills in there. So you ended up going with surgery. What happened? How was that like?
The surgery was actually very quick, relatively painless. I mean, your knee has been opened, obviously, and, there's definitely some swelling and pain that happens within, the next 3 days after surgery. But by the 4th or 5th, you're actually starting to feel better,
Yeah.
And they started me on physical therapy on my 5th day post-surgery. So I was able to start moving my leg and start moving my knee almost immediately. And that had been a big difference, from the crippling, being on crutches for 2 months, which makes even everyday activities impossible.
Yeah.
That actually being able to move your leg and use it was wonderful.
You said that you were fairly early on in your martial arts journey when this happened. I would think that would bring you to a point where you're not quite hooked on the martial arts and you're really questioning whether you want to continue with this or not, getting injured that early on. Was that the case?
I took the extra time that I had acquired of being off the mat to really kind of evaluate my relationship with jiu-jitsu. And I remember my coach asking me after my first class what I thought of the class, and I said I loved it. And, he started to get that yeah, right smile, and I was like, no, seriously, I love it. And I figured, we always see these jokes online about, I'm in a relationship with jiu-jitsu and things like that. And so if jiu-jitsu was a person, and I really loved that person, then this would be the moment where they gave me the ultimatum in our relationship. What are you doing now? Where are we going from here? And I was like, if I really love this, I'm going to go ahead and commit. I'm going to get married to jiu-jitsu, and I'm going to keep going because I really love this.
That's a cool way to look at it, and you did get that ultimatum pretty early on, and that's... It's
true, but, I just find it so irresistible to be on those mats that I think this jiu-jitsu is for me.
Well, good.
I'm willing to take the plunge.
That's a fun way to look at it.
Yeah.
So how long were you off the mats with your doing rehab and not getting back to training?
Well, like I said, it was almost 2 months that I spent on crutches, but as soon as I had the surgery, I waited about 5 months doing rehab about 3 times a week, and right at the middle of the 5th month, I saw the doctor, and he had been promising me that at 6 months, I could go back to jiu-jitsu. Well, during our consultation, he told me he really, really wanted me to wait till 9 months in, and that is not the answer I was looking for.
Yeah.
So I kind of went against his orders and started, very slowly doing techniques, not so much sparring, but just techniques at like the 5, almost 6 month mark.
Okay.
I couldn't resist the mats anymore,
I don't know of any doctor who's looking at a recovering patient and says, it's time to get back on the mat and start training hard again. There's no benefit to them to say that to somebody, because if you do get re-injured, you could go and say, hey, you told me I was ready. Most people are going to start training a little earlier than they should maybe, but your doctor's not going to tell you, get back out there and start, rolling around again. So
Absolutely. And my doctor, bless his heart, did admittedly say that he had no idea what jiu-jitsu was or anything like that. He just didn't want me to do those things that he saw in MMA.
Yeah,
and I was like, I can handle that. I can avoid being punched in the face, no problem.
Yeah, that's you get the stereotypical what they're going to make a guess at what it is, and they have a vague idea now thanks to MMA, but usually they're way off as far as how crazy it is. Were you able to do any cross training and stay fit and active while you were injured?
Yeah, I after a while, like I said, a couple of days after surgery, they had me in physical therapy about 3 times a week. So there they were. I had the benefit of being able to have this. It's actually like a physical therapy center that's nationally recognized. Excuse me. And they had like football players there, and SEC draft football players there rehabbing with me, and so they were very, very focused on not only getting my leg back to normal, but keeping me fit with weights and cardio and things like that. Just about everything they offered to the pro athletes, they were offering to me. So that was something that I did 3 days a week, and then on my own, I was doing normal kind of plyometric exercises, and within 2 months, I was in yoga class trying to get my range of motion to what I consider normal.
Do you think the yoga helped you heal up a little quicker or better?
I'm not sure if it helped with the healing so much, but it definitely encourages that scar tissue that kind of gets creative to be like more stretchy.
Yeah.
and it definitely helps with the range of motion. You know, you learn in yoga that there's a fine line between, you know, intense feelings and something that might be painful. And that was a helpful skill, not only to bring to the jiu-jitsu mats, but also to bring to my physical therapy too.
Cool. That's good advice. I'm guessing you did some yoga before you got injured, but
Yeah.
But that's one option for somebody who is unable to get back on the mats, you know, and use that time to do some other kind of training, and yoga looks like an option that might help you. So that's cool.
Absolutely.
How's your knee today? What's going on with your lasting effects?
I'm going to say I'm about 85 to 90% back to normal with my knee. You know, there are still some motions and some kind of pressure that's you know, just too much, and I'll often tap in class when I get into one of those positions. I definitely get a little freaked out when somebody goes for a leg lock.
Yeah.
But, you know, for the most part, I don't even think about it anymore. You know, it used to be like you'd wake up and every day, oh, my knee hurts today. And now, you know, I'm coming home from the bulk food store, throwing that 50-pound bag of dog food over my shoulder and walking up the flight of stairs to my home, and I'm not even thinking about it.
Cool. How long ago was your injury? Now that you feel like you're 85, 90% better, how long?
I injured myself on May 15th, 2013.
Okay.
And I had my surgery on July 31st. So it's been almost a full year.
Okay. Well, that's sounds like you're healing up pretty good. That's encouraging.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it you know, when you get injured, it doesn't have to be life-ending. And, you know, I would definitely recommend to anybody who gets injured that you try to keep your life as normal as you can, you know? Like, continue doing all of those things that you used to do. And, you know, like, even for me, when I was stuck on crutches, you know, you would have to start to be creative about things. Like, you know, I had to tie a rope around my laundry basket to get it to the machine and stuff. But, you know, go out with your friends and have dinner. You know, go to class 3 times a week. I still did, you know, on my crutches, just to watch the technique. Just try to keep it normal and know that your life isn't over, you know?
Yeah.
There's still plenty of stuff that you can do.
That's good advice. And I do like that. It's hard to go to class and watch, but it'll keep you in the, you know, in the mode of learning jiu-jitsu, and that way you won't have not been for a long time when you come back. I mean, it keeps you in that habit of going to class.
Keeps your habit up, yeah. Keeps your habit of going to class on a regular basis up, you know, and it helps you mentally stay in the game because you're still learning and watching jiu-jitsu. And, you know, you get to be, you know, almost in a dark place where you just want to kind of lay in bed and feel sorry for yourself. But you can't do that, you know. You have to stay in the jiu-jitsu game, and whatever you can do to keep you motivated, whether, you know, like I picked up a bunch of books on techniques. I read a bunch of biographies. I kind of got inspired by the UFC fighter Kat Zingano because she had busted her knee around the same time that I did, and so I tried to keep up with her. Just, you know, you have to be actively motivating yourself to move and try to get back to normal.
Well, that's good. If you had a friend that had a similar injury and it just happened just recently, what advice would you give them about, you know, getting better, getting through the surgery, and what they're about to face?
Well, you know, it's funny you ask that because I actually do have a friend who recently just did the same thing. Yeah. Hers is totally military related. She did it in boot camp, so you know what happens. But, you know, basically what I told her is what I said. You know, it's going to be extremely tough. You know, like it's going to be a dark place for a while. And the best you can do is just put your game face on and push through it and try to keep your life as normal as it was before you injured yourself. You know, like try to do those things that you used to do for yourself. And even if you have to get clever about it, whether it's, you know, putting a chair in the kitchen so you can continue to cook, or, you know, tying that rope around that laundry basket, and just remind yourself that there's still things that you can do and still things that you love to do, whether that's, for me, jiu-jitsu, or, for her, it's her crafts and her hobbies. You can still do these things. You don't have to sit there and be sorry about what happened, and also to kind of find a little bit of forgiveness, because we tend to be really hard on ourselves, especially as people who love martial arts, or those people in the military who really want to aspire to be the best. And, you got to find a little bit of forgiveness and a little bit of leeway if you can't measure up the way you used to. You have a very big obstacle to overcome.
Yeah.
And as long as you're putting one foot in front of the other, you're making progress. And that's all you can really ask of yourself, is to make that progress. And, of course, I would warn her that physical therapy is its own form of torture, and that you will tap out to your physical therapist more often than your favorite training partner.
Oh, man.
And that's okay, Like I said, just keep making progress, even in the physical therapy.
Yeah. Being able to forgive yourself for not being able to make the same gains you had made earlier, that's a good way to look at it, because you're not, and it's frustrating that you're not able. If you didn't get injured, 2 months after that injury, you would have been better at jiu-jitsu than you were, on the crutches. So you need to be able to forgive yourself for taking a slower journey at that point in time, and not get frustrated, not get upset, and just continue on. So I like that attitude about being able to forgive yourself for the training that is a different standard now.
Definitely, and I've taken a lot of advice from my coach, who throughout my journey just kept reminding me, this is a marathon. This isn't a sprint.
Yeah.
It's a marathon. Take your time. Take it easy. Take the time that you need to get better. And for me, I had to forgive myself for going at that slower pace, especially, like you said, so hard to watch from the sidelines as your training partners and your classmates get better and better while you're sitting there, and you got to take it easy, I actually looked a lot into, these Facebook pages and stuff like Old Man Jiu-Jitsu and how it is to train once you're, over a certain age, and you kind of got to remind yourself that although you're hurt, or maybe you're older, or whatever your current state is, you can still do this.
That's absolutely correct. That's cool. Thank you for coming on here. This has been motivating, and sharing your story about your knee injury and your ideas and philosophies about overcoming that. It's been very good, and I know you've helped some people and get over their injuries, whether it be the same or just a general jiu-jitsu injury.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me.
All right, we've got Dusty Grant on the line with us. How are you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good. How you guys doing?
We're doing great. We appreciate you taking time out to talk to us about your injuries. So thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I'm happy to talk to you guys. I really dig the show, so great.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you train, how long you've been training, or any sort of background information you might want to give.
I've been training probably for about 3.5 to 4 years. I train at Fox Fitness BJJ under Jake Fox, who is an affiliate of Andre Montero. I believe you guys had Andre on the show before.
Absolutely.
Yes, we have. Great. And we've had Jake on the show also. So
that's right.
Yep.
So yeah, I got my blue belt a little over a year ago, and I've been just working on that, trying to get better, trying not to get smashed by everybody.
You get smashed a lot. You're one of the bigger guys in class, I believe.
Yeah, but everyone's so much better than me. It makes it a little bit tricky.
All right, so let's get on to your injury. Could you tell us what happened?
I had been training for, I would say, maybe 3 months. So I decided to enter and this is when I was a white belt. I was a total beginner. I decided to enter a tournament in Edmond, Oklahoma. I went down there. I had a couple matches. I won one, lost one, and then in my third match, I tore my ACL and my medial meniscus completely through. So I was out of commission for quite a while there. I was in a guy's half guard, and I was winning like 11-2. I was trying to pass, and my foot got caught underneath, and then when I tried to move my leg, heard a pop, and that was it. Everything was snapped there. So I just stayed inside control for the remainder of the match, and then I had to drop out of the key division, obviously, because I couldn't really stand or walk or anything like that. So.
Did you know that you heard it when it happened, or did you just think it popped?
Yeah, I knew something was wrong. It was really strange, like, because when I played football before, if you sprained something or you broke something, you kind of knew that it was a serious injury, but I'd never torn something like that before. So I felt when I felt the pop, I knew there was definitely something wrong, because the stability of my leg and everything, it felt really bizarre to me. I'd never been through that before. And then after the match, when I got up and, started walking around and the adrenaline kind of wears off, I definitely knew there was something wrong,
Yeah, that's impressive. You even finished out the match and won that match. Props to you there to be able to fight through that.
Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with just, ignorance, really. I was in a position where I was able to kind of muscle the guy, and he couldn't really move, and I didn't know if I had just minorly tweaked something, or, I guess I didn't really know the severity of what had happened, when it actually happened.
So then, like, what happened after that? Like you said, you decided to get out of the gi match, or drop out of the gi portion of the tournament. Did you go home and go straight to the doctor, or it's probably the weekend, so you probably couldn't, or like what happened next? How did you know that it was really, really bad?
Well, I knew there was definitely something wrong, like I said, so I dropped out of the gi division. I drove home. It was a tournament in Edmond, Oklahoma, which is by Oklahoma City, and I live in Wichita. So it was about a 2 hour and 20 minute drive. By the time I got back, it was really swollen. I could definitely tell there was, something seriously wrong by then. I walked it off for a couple days just to see, hey, maybe it's a sprain, whatever. And then after a couple days, I definitely knew there was something that I needed to get looked at. The initial doctor that I went to, who was, just like my family doctor, he pulled on it a little bit, did some x-rays, had me walk on it, and he didn't even tell me my ACL was torn or anything. He's like, just take it easy on it, and if it hurts, don't do it. And I was like, okay. And then a couple days later, I was walking into a restaurant, and my knee, like, kind of slipped out of place or whatever, and I almost fell over. I'm like, yeah, there's definitely something not right here. So then I went to a specialist, and he pulled on it once, and he's like, oh, yeah, man, it's gone. You should probably not plan on doing anything for, 9 months to a year at least. So then I knew it was over with, and they did an MRI and confirmed it all.
And then how long after that till you actually had surgery?
I had surgery, I believe it was about 2 weeks after that. They drained my knee a couple times because it was so full of fluid, and they actually recommended that I get out and walk around a little bit on it to try and reduce some of the swelling before they operated on it, because it was really swollen. So it was about 2 weeks until I actually had the surgery. And
then after the surgery, how long did it start? For your rehab, like what did your rehab consist of?
I was really surprised with that. I had the surgery, and then the next day they wanted to see me back, and they took they put like something on my leg, like a brace to stabilize it, and so they put the brace on there to stabilize it. The day after my surgery, I went in to the person that I was doing the rehab with, and they took the brace off. They started moving my leg like immediately. When I first saw my leg after the surgery, I almost passed out, because they shave your leg completely, and I had like 30 or 40 staples in my leg. I was just like, ugh, I got kind of nauseous and didn't feel too great. But they started moving my leg the day after the surgery. And then, you know, from there it was, you know, doing a lot of like really basic stuff, just little things to flex your quads, you know, little things just because the biggest thing they told me is like, you want to get moving on it as much as you can without hurting it right away. So I started working on the rehab exercises and stuff pretty diligently, like within a couple days of the surgery.
How long were you out altogether, like from training? Yeah, you know, from
you know, after I was after I tore my ACL, I'd kind of like ridden jiu-jitsu off. You know, I'm like, man, I've only been doing that for 3 months. I'm a little bit older. You know, is it really worth it if this kind of stuff's going to happen? So, you know, I went to the gym for a while and I was just lifting weights and running. My whole rehab, they told me I wouldn't be able to do jiu-jitsu from the day of my surgery for a full year.
Okay.
So I was out for a full year. And then I think I took another month to, you know, kind of try and get back in shape before I finally decided to go back to jiu-jitsu. You know, I was like, yeah, I can't stay away from it. I'm just going to keep training. So yeah, it was a full year.
Do you have any effects still today that you notice on your knee?
Really, every once in a while it'll be a little bit stiff. But, you know, to be completely honest, it feels great. I mean, I don't worry about it. You know, I think it all has a lot to do with, you know, the diligence of the rehab. You know, if you're pretty dedicated to that, I think you can get back to 100%. I know there was people I was in rehab with that weren't as stringent with the exercises as I was, and they were substantially behind me as far as progressing and being able to use it, you know, normally. I don't have any, I mean, other than it feeling stiff from time to time, I really don't have any problems with it at all.
That's good to hear.
I guess where I've got a screw in my tibia where they connected the tendon in my tibia, and that gets a little tender from time to time, but it's nothing that, you know, would keep me from training or, you know, keep me from any kind of physical activity at all. So yeah, it's great. The guy did a great job.
Let's say one of your training partners did the same thing today. What would you tell your training partner to, you know, comfort him and, you know, tell him, you know, to how to get on the mats as quick as possible?
The first thing I would say is to try not to get down. I mean, I was really depressed. You know, I was a pretty active guy. To have somebody to tell you, you know, man, you're not going to be full strength for 9 to 12 months. That's kind of a bummer. So the first thing I would say is, you know, try and stay positive. You know, it's going to take some time, but you're going to get back to, you know, to where you can kind of train full bore again. And then the next thing I would say is, you know, listen to what the orthopedic tells you, listen to what the physical therapist tells you, do your exercises, you know, go above and beyond to do your exercises and get back, because it really does pay off.
I like that. Go above and beyond, and, you know, hard work pays off.
Yeah, there were guys like, and people are like, you know, jiu-jitsu's so dangerous. Like, I can't believe you're doing that dangerous sport. Well, there was a lady in rehab with me. You know, you had like 4 or 5 people in your rehab with you doing stuff. And there was a lady in there with me, and she got excited about one of her contestants winning on American Idol. She jumped off her couch like excited and blew out her knee. So I'm like, yeah, how dangerous is jiu-jitsu? It's about as dangerous as watching American Idol, I guess. You know,
Or
it can happen to anybody, you know.
Or could go to like a local concert and get excited and jump up and down. Which
yeah.
Hey, tell us a little bit about your band, real quick.
I play in a band here in Wichita called Empire Falling. It's like a hard rock type metal band. You know, we've played some regional gigs and we've played a couple big shows here in town, but you know, we're a local band just trying to get our stuff out there, and we've been together for about a year, so it's been going pretty good, and it's a great deal of fun.
And you're sending a song our way. We're going to play it on the outro of the podcast here for the people to hear. So we appreciate that.
Yes, yep. I will definitely send it over to you guys. You know, I'm a big supporter of the show, and and the fact that I had an opportunity to come on is awesome. I can't wait to check it out. It's really cool to be on with you guys. So I really appreciate that.
What's the name of the song?
The song is called "Guilty." You can you can buy it on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon, Google Play, pretty much any digital media outlet that you want to. Again, it's Empire Falling, Guilty. If you want to check us out on Facebook, it's facebook.com/Empire Falling. So.
And I can tell you, I've been to a couple of their concerts, and they put on a great show, and seeing Dusty out there just command the stage is always a good time.
Yes, it definitely is. It gives us a chance to, get out there and get a little crazy, blow off some steam from the monotony of everyday life. That's for sure.
All right. Well, thanks for sharing your story with us. We look forward to getting this out to the people and help people that have knee injuries.
Thank you, Dusty.
All right. Yeah, no problem. Thanks a lot, guys. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, well, that wraps up part 1 of our 2-part injury stories episodes. I learned a lot from these people, Gary.
Oh, yeah, I did too. Some very inspirational people, just unbelievable injuries they've had and fought back from. And like you said, we've learned some, great advice. If this happens to us, happens to any of our teammates, happens to any of our friends, we should be able to help them out and give them some advice and tips. Yeah,
I can remember many times somebody said, "Oh, I'm going to have this surgery." Like, oh man, that sounds terrible. I'm sorry you have to do that. But it's good to sit to talk with somebody about the actual experience. That way, now I know what that person's going to be going through. You can't really know unless you do it, but I know more what it's going to be like for their healing process, for the surgery, and just the road they're going to have to travel.
Yeah, and I think one of the big things, too, is a lot of the doctors don't realize how much, when you start doing jiu-jitsu, how much it takes over your life. And with some of these injuries, the first thing they say is, "You're never going to do this again." And, it's inspirational to, hear these stories that, it seems like a lot of people have been told that. And, hey, let's rehab it. Let's get back to where we were at before, and let's get back on the mats and train safely. So it's kind of makes you realize that just because if the doctor tells you no, we can still do it. Yeah, you've got to be safe about it, but given enough time, you get back on the mats, guys. Yeah, and that's the nice thing is just you see people who are told no and are back on the mats, winning tournaments or just training for a hobby and fun. Yep. All right, guys, we'll catch you next week. We've got the same thing. Swing by and like our Facebook page, and definitely enter in the contest for the rash guard giveaway. We're giving away either a Robo or Moco, your choice, rash guard. It'll be given away over the next 3 episodes, 4 total. So swing by. So definitely check that out, and also check out Fuji Sports, who are nice enough to donate one of these rash guards to one of our listeners. So check out fujisports.com. Great rash guards, as everybody knows. Great gis, great T-shirts, great bags, great grappling shorts. So check them out and basically buy something if you need something. They'll take care of you. Yep, high quality and very good prices. If you want to send us an article or a quote of the week, feel free. Our email is bjjbrick@gmail.com, and we'll be happy to hear from you. Or any comment you have about the show, it means a lot for us. Thank you for listening. Yep, we'll catch you next week, my friends. Whoa, hey, Gary, cut the music. We have Dusty Grant going to play us out today. Empire Falling here. The song is called Guilty. You can find it in iTunes and basically anywhere online. I'll put a link to the band's Facebook page on the show notes. Empire Falling, Guilty. Here we go.